All right, so we're gonna go ahead and run through our steps to finish up the placement of the features on 3/4. Got most of the way there. So this step again, I'm setting up the nose. First thing is, you can always double check. Am I in about the right area for that base of the nose? I think I could bring it down a little bit. So there's my base. I could double check the width, right? Just by looking at the model, or does this look like it would be near where corner of the eye is? This side might not be perfect, right? Because I'm going to have some foreshortening. And then reassert, come back in and get comfortable with the position for that keystone. Then based on the tip, or the base of the nose, I look for the end or the tip of the nose. This is obviously now moved though, right? It's not perfectly above like it was and centered over the base of the nose on the last image or the front view. So here you just have to watch for that. So I cite it, say, okay, well, it's near the cheek, although not right on top of it, just slightly back. And then once I find this, the width, I'll take the sides of it and drop 2 planes back to the width of the base. And now we have an underplane. And so we could carve into this and get our nostrils and the cartilage. Now I'm going to bring this point straight up, so that's good enough. That line there. Difference now is keystone, these points, and so what is this a summary of? This is, if we were going to be super accurate in drawing this, we would draw the nasal saddle and kind of swoop this out or design the way that we think we're seeing this, and then the housing for the nose. So this is, and I don't mean to go on another tangent, but this would be the kind of more complicated architecture for what this box intends to give perspective placement to, right? So seeing and thinking all of this. One is a symbol or an indication of the other. I don't think it means you should know that, right? It'd be in your best interest too. That's just what I'm trying to summarize, right? Because maybe that's too difficult for people to set up or to draw at a beginning stage. So one line, one line, and now I have the nose turned to match the perspective of the face. Once I have this though, you could do exactly what I just did. You could use this as a template to see how does the saddle turn? When does it shift that corner? Or what's the difference in the cartilage here and at the end? So I guess I'm beating a dead horse in describing this because I don't want you to think it's the end, right? It's really just the start, whether it's lighting or describing more of the intricacies of form. Right, then you put our nose back there, etc., etc. Okay, the other thing I wanted to do is the placement of the eye. So let's get that spiraling quality to the eye socket. So I could think of this as a plane set back. And then we also have that line of the nose, so I know where the corner of the eye will be. You can see that, the tie in there. Okay, find the mouth, corner of the mouth. That helps me get the placement there for the eye as well. Now I can use those points in an effort to set up the sphere. And then I always tuck the eye behind, or whether it's top or bottom, depending on the view, just to get that extra layer of space. Right, that way, I think it looks weird if you just put like a ball there or a sphere. So I'm always looking for opportunities to do the same thing that we talked about last week, overlap or wrap forms. This side, right? So if I were to advance the design or the depiction of the eye socket in terms of geometry or form, I would start to give this more of a sphere or a oval, just to show that this is more prominent or coming forward, and that this is going away or receding, to so you get some spatial asymmetry to the eye socket. But I think most important is being able to determine in your drawings the difference between that plane, the form of the eye, right, and then back out and onto the structure of the the cheek or the socket or the fat in the, if you're developing out. I want to do the same thing. Take this sphere and I'm less set up here, less bringing the corner of the mouth up. No pun intended. I'm just kind of eyeballing it here and then refining the angle back for the socket or temple. Okay, that's done. So now we'll set up the mouth. Mouth is going to be set up the exact same way, corner or top of the chin. Develop a ghosted volume or egg that helps you to think about the projection of the teeth away from the face. So you can see how it affects the contour here by way of kind of pushing some of the skin or fat out. It also overlaps in front of the chin. I'm sorry, the cheek. So you get this landscape effect going on there. That also changes this line, right? That straight drop of the symmetry line to something that would be more like this. And so I'm adding that form, and then I always want to follow through in my drawings when I'm kind of drawing as a reflection of thinking is what I'm doing here to reflect that decision. So no longer is it flat, it means any decision has to go around it, either this way, right, if it's the lips, this way, if it's a cat shadow, right, or what have you. But that's the value of it, right? Is that it informs later decisions made in line or color or value. This would be my separation for the lips. So my M and my W would start here. The reason I'll indicate this is, so if we think about that M and W as perfectly symmetrical, all you have to do if you're turning the head is just show less of one side. So number one, it has to wrap. Number two, if I make an M here, right, and then corner, this side I'll just make smaller, or I guess shorter would be the correct term. And then W. And then if you want, you could take this and develop it out to have a bit more space, or I could make even smaller cuts or separations for the philtrum shape. But I do want to think of this pushing forward and then back in the lip, and then forward to the highlight. Highlights are a great place to look for corners, and then back, and then that's where we get our drop shadow. If you want to develop out your form, make your little commas and point them. And then last but not least, we could put here a chin. And so I'm trying to think about the same things in doing this. How does it influence what's above? Okay, well, I can kind of see shadows and shapes moving there. It looks like it's behind. It has this type of angle change. There's an interruption to the surface. And then kind of reassess and find again that connection to the jaw or the structure of the jaw. And so I do this a lot, right? I'm even in the Photoshop layers, you can see I'm working light to dark and honing in every step. I get a little bit more specific. And so that would be, I think, a good enough starting point to leave you with in terms of a discussion of the head construction as far as consideration for the level of finish. Can that be done for a profile? Absolutely. A little bit easier because we're not dealing with quite as much perspective. Nose. So I'm doing keystone. Here's the base of the nose. So one thing I always try to do if I'm seeing a profile is never just leave it like that. I think sometimes people are tempted to draw this and then be done with it. But it always flattens out. So it still has the same steps. Find the base of the nose. Where's the end or the tip of the nose? Okay, it's there. Drop this back. Right? Find your nostril. Pull that up to the corner of the eye. Right? All those things are pretty consistent so far. But what I'm not going to get you might have it barely, right? But I don't get that front side relationship quite as well. In times like that, I don't show it. I'll exaggerate a different perspective. So here I'm going to show the bottom. And this could be a complete exaggeration. In this particular pose, I don't think it is, right? But if I can't see a front or a side, then I'll try to show under or over. And so that gives me my linear perspective in this, is to say that there's that perspective plane. To seat the eye, same thing, just kind of doing my best to position the sphere relative to that socket shape. And then, it would be the same principle for trying to see the eyelids. I'll just do it off to the side. Again, I want to prioritize that is most important to me in terms of looking or seeing your work. But to advance that would be to say, this goes over, and then because I'm slightly under the eye, maybe I see underneath that top plane. Right, and then this lid goes around, and then maybe I could show some perspective by exaggerating a little bit of that plane. So I'm always trying to do my best to show whatever perspective I can in line. Also important, I try to push the eyelid, and this could be an exaggeration as well, but clear and past the eye. That's for that same kind of reason of asymmetry. Okay, now mouth. Establish the top of the chin. Ghost in a shape limited by the side plane so that you'd see your entrosphere. If we kind of add something in terms of the fat, the malar fat here, you can see how this line of the cheek pulls this way. This line is is benefited by having this understructure or tooth cylinder or barrel because it's telling me the direction that line flows. And then even down here, it starts to go this way, is still right, moving with that. So sometimes these forms are directly related to the idea of the skull or the idea of the face, and then sometimes they're informative for the practice of drawing or how I think about the practice of drawing or need to be reminded about the practice of drawing. So we can now look at the lips. Right? So first things important is maintaining asymmetry. So I'd say comes out, lower lip comes out, goes back. So I'll do that here, and I'll just bring it down to my measurement marker. And then I'm going to push and exaggerate. So that principle I just talked about, moving the line around the form, I'm doing that here, over the egg, down, and then wherever the mouth ends. That gives me some perspective. This, no perspective. Lower lip here, back, pull this up. And then, a lot of times I like to kind of follow the flow or the kind of fullness of the muscles on the side so that you get that shape. And then from there, we'll push into the chin and then try to match whatever shape that is. So there we have front, 3/4, and then profile. But look how much change has happened in my line from that, which was my initial start, to a more kind of refined. It's probably not there all the way yet, but it's how I think this process is useful in allowing you to creep up on the finished result. It allows you that opportunity to study or to make mistakes. I make tons of mistakes constantly. Last two will be under and over.